I'm Corbett Wall with USDA Market News, here with your weekly feeder and stocker cattle market summary for the week ending January the 31st. We had cattle and calves selling unevenly steady to $3 lower. Your full decline was noted in your markets that have been the highest over this run up here in the last several weeks, up in the northern plains, Nebraska and the Dakotas, places like that, in Iowa, where we've seen the highest of the highs. And a lot of those markets were more than $3 lower this week, and quite a bit lower. But not falling out of bed by any means. But we did see some higher markets, like in southwest Kansas down there, where those feedlots purchased, like in Pratt and Dodge City. They call their feeding cattle as much as $3 or $4 higher. But a lot of mostly steady in your major areas, southern Missouri, Oklahoma, and down in the southeast, where your runs were real light because they kind of had that freak snowstorm that had most of us Midwesterners rolling our eyes. They really didn't have a lot of trade on their big days, which was early in the week. Later in the week they sold some cattle pretty fair and higher in some places, but a lot of mostly steady around. But we're still sitting at record highs in a lot of places on a lot of different weight groups. A lot of people do feel that this market is top heavy, which is really an understatement. Sure, it's top heavy, we're at all-time record highs, but at the same time there's still good demand for all classes of cattle. And not only good demand, but a lot of these buyers that are buying cattle and need cattle down the road are awful worried about the supplies of cattle when we get into March and April and on in through there. Asking a lot of questions, these auction market men, different people, you know, is there going to be any cattle out there? Is there still cattle for sale? They're awful worried about that. And still crowds of people lined up to bid on cattle if those prices dip down below where we've seen here in the last several weeks, and try to cheapen up some of those cattle they've already bought. But still some crazy prices. Those farmer feeders are still hungry. For those sandhill cattle in Nebraska at Bassett on Wednesday, they had nearly 400 fancy, not just top quality, but fancy 6-weight steers, averaging 649 pounds, and they averaged 207.17. And that's on a market that was actually called as much as $10 lower on the bulk of sales. So you kind of see where we're at. This market is kind of struggling for direction. As we sit on record highs, there's still awful good demand, but everybody knows we're kind of top heavy here. This USDA inventory report came out on Friday, much anticipated, as we haven't gotten much information like this for a while. And total numbers of cattle and calves coming out as of January 1st come in at 87.7 million. Off of 89.3 million a year ago. That's nearly a 2% drop, which was pretty much expected, but it's good confirmation there. Some more numbers that come in on that. Your calves under 500 pounds, total inventory of those is down 4%, which is pretty significant, but beef replacement heifers up 2%, which doesn't surprise anyone. You know, all of our markets on all classes of feeder cattle, fat cattle, pretty much every kind of beef cattle has been record highs right after the first of the year here, except for slaughter cows. But this past week they made some big runs, and a lot of these good slaughter cows, especially your higher dressing cows, selling over $1, in some cases way over $1 a pound, as they're getting a lot of competition from some of these farmers that would like to buy an older cow that maybe have a calf in her, take a chance on pregnant her. And a lot of the P2 and 3 older cows do go to slaughter still, but sometimes these farmers are coming in trying to pick one up, especially if it doesn't weigh real heavy and doesn't add up to too many dollars. And there's also a world of guys out there that's got a lot of silage and feed stacked up around. They think these calves and yearlings are too high, so they're trying to buy a cow that they think they can put some cheap weight on and then market going into the spring and that grilling season. Your box beef cutout values for the week, for the whole week's trade, down $6 this week, which didn't help your packers out much. And your fat cattle market never really got going here this week. The problem is the board is about an $8 discount to cash, so that doesn't give a whole lot of support there. We did see some trade come in here, reported real late Friday afternoon, like 146, but not really enough to establish the market. So for the most part, especially in the southern plains, didn't get much cattle done as of 5 o'clock here Friday afternoon. Regional weighted averages: north central states, 8-weight steer cost you $165.60 compared to $165.78 last week and $142.29 a year ago. Down in the south central states, 7 to 8-weight steer, $168.26 compared to $168.24 last week and $146.54 a year ago. Down in the southeast, 4 to 5-weight steer on order, $2.33 compared to $202.88 last week and $173.65 a year ago. That wraps up your feeder and stocker cattle market summary for this week. Check out our website for more market information at marketnews.usda.gov. And from the Regional Market News Office in St. Joe, Missouri, we'll talk to you next week.